"I've heard this name before," a doctor thought to himself after reading the name of a patient who had just passed away. He was sure he'd never met this girl, but her name rang a bell. Who is she, he wondered. After a hectic day at work, Trevor entered his house and darted for the couch before his phone rang. Who can it be? He wondered before he slid his phone out of his pocket and answered it. "Dr. Trevor, we need you at the hospital right now. Only you can save this girl from dying," his assistant screamed through the phone. Okay, calm down please," Trevor said. "I'll be there in 5. Instead of relaxing at home after a tiring day, Trevor drove back to the hospital after the emergency call. He was one of the best surgeons in town with an experience of more than 30 years. Upon reaching the hospital, Trevor learned that a homeless girl had been brought to the hospital after she went into labor. She had delivered the baby, but her condition wasn't stable. She was fighting for her life. Trevor quickly checked the girl's vitals and began instructing his staff on what to do next when the heart rate monitor suddenly showed a flat line. The girl breathed her last before Trevor could save her life. After the homeless girl passed away, Trevor sat at his desk to complete the paperwork regarding her demise. He read the girl's name on one of the documents. "Josephine Pennington, that sounds familiar," he said to himself. While writing about the cause of Josephine's death and other related details, he suddenly realized why her name sounded familiar. Pennington was Olivia's surname, he thought to himself. Olivia was Trevor's ex-girlfriend and the only woman he'd loved the most. While thinking about Josephine, Trevor realized she resembled Olivia, and he even understood why the homeless girl's first name rang a bell. Back in the day, Trevor and Olivia loved listening to the song Josephine by Chris Ray. They'd always play it whether on a road trip or just having dinner at home. They loved the song so much they wanted to name their child Joseph or Josephine. Was she your daughter, Olivia? Trevor wondered. He had no idea where Olivia was and whether she had a daughter. The last time he saw her was about 3 decades ago when they broke up. Sitting inside his office, Trevor began thinking about his first love, Olivia. He was only 19 when he saw her for the first time in med school. He clearly remembered the sparkle in her almond-shaped eyes and her voice when she took his name for the first time. Trevor fell in love with Olivia the first time he saw her, but she didn't have similar feelings. He became friends with her while working on a group project and eventually asked her out on a date. The day she agreed to date him was the best day of his life. Everything about Olivia seemed perfect to Trevor. Her curly brown hair, the black bag she brought to school, and her confidence. But he had no idea their relationship would be short-lived. "I want to start my own chain of clinics, Trevor," Olivia would tell him. "I've always dreamt of owning multiple clinics, but I'll have to build connections to fulfill my dream." "I'll help you achieve your dream, we'll do it together." Trevor would smile at his girlfriend whenever she talked about her dream, unaware that her ambition would be the reason behind their breakup. One day, Olivia's best friend introduced her to Richard, whose parents were among the best doctors in town. They'd been in the field for over 20 years, which meant they had many connections in the industry. After learning about Richard, Olivia could see her dream coming true. She knew Richard's parents could help her set up her first clinic, and then she would expand her business and set up multiple clinics in town. Olivia began talking to Richard without saying anything to Trevor and soon became friends with him. As time passed, Richard developed feelings for her. Meanwhile, Trevor had no idea what Olivia had in mind. "We need to talk," she told Trevor one day. "Sure, sweetie, what's up?" Trevor asked. "Trevor, don't get me wrong, but I can't be with you anymore," she said. "You're the sweetest person I know, but you can never help me achieve my goals." "What do you mean, Olivia?" Trevor could feel his heart racing. "I can't even think of leaving you." "Look, Trevor, I found a guy and he wants to marry me," Olivia said. "I can't be with you anymore, I'm sorry." Olivia told Trevor about Richard and his parents before she left him. That was the last conversation Trevor had with the love of his life. Since then, he'd never dated any other girl because no one was as perfect as Olivia. He believed she was the best girl he'd ever met. After reading Josephine's name on the documents, Trevor wanted to find out where Olivia was. Once he completed the documentation, he sat on his desk and began searching for Olivia on his laptop. After spending more than 2 hours, he discovered Olivia lived in a local asylum. Since it was almost midnight when he got the address, he decided to visit it the next day. "Is there a woman named Olivia Pennington here?" Trevor asked the receptionist the following day. "Olivia Pennington? Yeah, she's been here the last 20 years. After Trevor told the receptionist he wanted to meet Olivia, she took him to a room and asked him to wait. A few minutes later, Olivia emerged from the door and instantly recognized her visitor. "Olivia, what are you doing here?" Trevor asked. "It's a long story, Trevor. I'm so glad to see you here," Olivia said. "I want to know everything," Trevor said as he looked at the woman sitting in front of him with dark circles and wrinkly skin. She looked nothing like the young Olivia he fell in love with. "Richard began cheating on me soon after we got married," Olivia said while looking at the ground. "And he'd argue with me whenever I confronted him. He wasn't the man I thought he was, Trevor." Things had already started to go downhill between us, but he never thought about parting ways until he read my diary and learned my biggest secret," she continued. "What secret?" Trevor's brows furrowed. "It was about my daughter," Olivia said. "She wasn't Richard's child." "What did he do when he found out?" he asked. "He couldn't kick her out then, but he did when she turned 18, and he left me on the streets too before I came here," Olivia recalled. "I have no idea where my daughter is." "What's your daughter's name?" "Josephine Pennington." Olivia looked into Trevor's eyes. "Remember that name?" Trevor remained silent for a few seconds before he told Olivia about the homeless girl who died at this hospital. "I think she was your daughter, Olivia." "Oh, Jesus!" Olivia covered her face with her hands and began crying. "My little girl." Trevor consoled Olivia, but he still had no idea that he was Josephine's father. Olivia was pregnant when she left him to marry Richard, but she didn't know about it until she did a paternity test on her daughter years later. "She was your daughter, Trevor," Olivia said while tears trickled down her cheeks. "What?" Trevor was stunned. "Josephine was my daughter? Oh my God." Trevor shook his head and looked at the ground while thinking about Josephine. He couldn't believe he was called to the hospital to save his daughter from dying the other day. "Where's her baby?" Olivia interrupted. "He's in a foster home, Olivia, but don't worry, I'll take care of him," Trevor assured her before he left the asylum and headed toward the foster home. Inside the foster home, Trevor picked his grandson in his arms and said, "We'll call you Joseph," before kissing his forehead. Later that day, he filled the documents required for adopting the baby and took Joseph home. Eventually, Trevor fell in love with a woman and married her. The couple raised Joseph together, and Trevor frequently visited Olivia and showed Joseph's pictures to her. He kept seeing her at the asylum until she breathed her last. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.